Free to Yuma by James Brown. In this presentation, I'll compare and contrast an original of the movie and the remake. The film I've chosen to analyse is Free to Yuma. This film is a western and is also classed as an action, drama and thriller. The original was made in 1957 and the remake was made in 2007. In a nutshell, after an outlaw leader named Ben Wade, which is played by Glenn Ford, is captured in a small town, his gang continue to threaten and hunt Dan Evans, who is a rancher, and is persuaded to take Wade in secret to the nearest town with a railway station to await the train to the port at Yuma. Once the two are held up in a hotel awaiting the train, it becomes apparent that it is no longer a secret and the Battle of Wheels starts. It was released September the 13th, 1957. The screenplay was by Harlow and the story is by Elmore Leonard. It's also directed by Delmer Daves. The remake is the genre is action, drama, thriller and western. And in a nutshell, a small-time rancher called Dan Evans, who is played by Christian Bale, who is in desperate need of money because he is in debt to Glenn Hollander, who is played by Lenny Loftin, who has recently sent some of his boys to burn down his barn, agrees to take leader outlaw Ben Wade to the nearest town and await the 3:10 train to Yuma, where he awaits court. Wade's crew are hot on his back the whole way until it no longer remains a secret and the Battle of Wheels commences. This was released September the 7th, 2007, which is a similar time month to the original, and the screenplay is by Harlow and Michael Brown, and it's directed by James Mangold. The original running time is 92 minutes, which is an hour and a half roughly, and the IMDb rating is 7.6. The box office got 1.85 million. The production budget I couldn't find out, so that is non-applicable. The trivia: the average shot length was 6.4 seconds and the median shot length was 6.6 seconds. This film, along with equally allegorical High Noon, was a deciding factor in making Howard Hawks' return out Rio Bravo a return to simpler, less visionist westerns. Free to Yuma, the remake. The running time is 117 minutes, which is 2 hours. The IMDb rating is 7.8, which is unusual for a remake to get a higher rating than the original. The box office was $7,016,220, and the production budget was $55 million. The total lifetime grosses, the domestic is $53,616,916,000, which is an average of 76.6. Plus the foreign, which is like worldwide, was $16,000, 409,304. The domestic summary: opening weekend they earned $14,035,033, and it was number one rank in 2,652, which averaged $5,292. Total gross is 26.2%. 1957. Glenn Ford played the outlaw Ben Wade and Van Heflin played the rancher Dan Evans. Ben Wade is an extremely dangerous man who kills when he feels it is necessary, but at the same time he has a code of honour. You realise this when Ben Wade kills a man who is trying to prevent him from robbing a stagecoach, and he shows concern that the man should be buried in his hometown. In a sense, his gang also seem to have the remote amount of honour. Dan Evans is a man of integrity because at first he agrees to take Wade to the station because he needs the money, but as the storyline develops and things become more intense, he continues with the job because he feels it's the right thing to do. He is also a man of quiet strength and principle, and Wade helps him out in the end out of respect. The remake is more fast-paced and has plenty of action, but I was surprised how closely it followed the original, sometimes right down to the dialogue. The most noticeable difference in the remake from the original is the two main characters, especially their actions and motivations. Russell Crowe and his gang are a lot more violent and seem to kill ruthlessly. Dan Evans is a much weaker man, and instead of continuing because it feels like the right thing to do, it almost seemed as if he's trying to prove to his son that he could be a hero. Wade also continuously seems to outdo Evans, and although he may have gained respect for him, it almost seems that Wade helps Evans out of pity rather than respect. The cast in the original was Van Heflin that played Dan Evans, and in the remake it was Christian Bale. Glenn Ford played Ben Wayne, and in the remake it was Russell Crowe. Henry Jones played Alex Potter, and in the original and in the remake Alan Tudyk played Alex Potter. Richard Jackal played Charlie Prince in the original, and Ben Foster played Charlie Prince in the remake. Felicia Farr played Emmy in the original, and Vanessa Shaw played Emmy in the remake. Laura Dana played Miss Alice Evans, and Gretchen Mol played Miss Alice Evans. Character similarities. As you can see, they've got a similar face, like jawline, and Russell Crowe just looks like a rougher version of Glenn Ford. And the same with Van Heflin and Christian Bale, they're very similar characters. They're very skinny, got a bit of a hunched back, and don't look very confident in themselves. Technologies of the production. This is the remake. Unfortunately, there was some CGI used in the remake in the 310 to Yuma for the gun battle scene, in which a horse and rider explode into a fireball. Also, whenever men were riding horses while carrying torches, the torch fire was also made using CGI. The scene in which Dan Evans' barn exploded was done using a combination of visual effects as well as it being a triggered explosion, which was not triggered until the cattle were removed to a safe difference. When Evans shoots the dying cow in the road, it isn't actually a cow, it's a prop with air hoses rigged inside to make it look like it is still breathing. Dan and the gang walk through a tunnel to get to a blasting camp where Wade is being held. The dust and smoke were special effects, and all the tools and corpses were props. No bullets were actually shot when the guns were fired throughout the film, for health and safety reasons, especially with all the horses around. Distribution and exhibition. When it was first released in the summer of 1957, it became popular among audience and critics for its suspenseful nature and its sharp black and white cinematography. Glenn Ford got noticed for his villainous performance. The following year, 310 to Yuma was nominated for the British Academy of Film and Television Arts Award for Best Film and the Laurel Award for Top Male Action Star, which went to Van Heflin. The remake in 2007. 310 to Yuma debuted in the United States and Canada on September the 7th, 2007 in 2,652 theatres. In the opening weekend, the film grossed $14,035,033 and ranked number one at the box office in the States and Canada. So 310 to Yuma grossed $53,606,916 in the United States and $16,409,304 in other territories of for a worldwide total of $70,016,220. Trends at the time. Westerns were a massive hit in the 50s with films such as The Bounty Hunter, The Lone Gun, Gun Belt, Gun Sight Ridge and Veracruz. These are just some posters of westerns made in the 50s. Social, political and regulatory factors. This film explores issues of morality and integrity, as well as a clash of values. Ben Wade is a villain with very little morals, but he feels strongly about respect and lives a life of crime and murder. On the other hand, Dan Evans is a man of many morals and has always lived a legitimate and law-abiding life, who would prefer to earn an honest buck rather than take from those who have. Wade seems to believe that every man has their price and can be bought, but can something more motivate human behaviour? In the original, Dan Evans continued to take Wade to the station after all the drama and risk because he believes that it's the right thing to do. In the remake, it seems that the rancher does believe it's the right thing to do, but at the same time he wants to prove to his son that anyone can be a hero, including a handicapped rancher. Synergies between films. In the original, Glenn Ford played Ben Wade, cool and determined, and even though he was the villain, he wasn't a man you necessarily hated or feared. Russell Crowe takes those attributes and layers them with more interesting elements. Wade has more of a sense of humour, but at the same time he has the ability to change that serious face into one that seems mischievous and happy at the same time. In the original, Van Heflin made a great Dan Evans. He played the role of a straightforward man feeling hardship and would sacrifice whatever it takes to correct those situations. In the newer version, more additions were made to the character Dan Evans. These were that he had lost a leg in the Civil War, which also makes you pity him. It also complicates the task that has been handed to complete. In the original, when Dan and Wade are awaiting a train in the hotel room, Wade attempts to jump Dan. Whereas in the remake, Wade doesn't do this. Instead, he seems more relaxed and psychotically intimidating, knowing that his henchman will do his dirty work. When Dan confronts Ben in the bar after he's retrieved his cattle that had been borrowed to stop the stagecoach, he asks him for $2 a day for himself and his boys. Wade agrees to this and slides the money across the bar before Dan plucks up the nerve to ask for $2 more. Whereas in the remake, Evans doesn't ask Wade, Wade originally offers the money to him and his boys in the end. Dan is still the one to ask for $2 more though. Wade's right-hand man, Charlie Prince, who is played by Richard Jekyll, is hardcore to look at and fits the limited role given to him. Whereas Ben Foster's Charlie Prince had more additions to his character which made him a man that you would love to hate. Vertical and horizontal integration. The 1957 original was produced by David Helliwelly and distributed by Columbia Pictures. The 2007 remake was produced by Kathy Conrad and produced by Lion Gates Films. Kathy later went on to produce Night and Day, as well as become the executive producer of Screamfloor. Overview. Overall, I prefer the 2007 remake compared to the 1957 original, although both are great films. The remake was more action-packed, and the actors who played Ben Wade, Dan Evans and Charlie Prince have such different perspectives and personalities that it made you connect more with the character. I also prefer that Christian Bale's Dan Evans was handicapped from the Civil War because it made the situation more complicated and gave the impression that he was weak and had no backbone. When all odds were stacked up against him, he prevails and it makes it more inspiring. One thing that I prefer about the original is that Dan Evans was more straightforward and witty, whereas in the remake you seem to have sympathy for him. In the remake I like the fact throughout the whole film you're trying to work Wade out, such as his feelings, his emotions and his motivations, as well as his morals. I didn't like the use of CGI in the remake for fires and explosions. I think it would have been better done in a controlled environment, creating realism. I also like the fact that you hate Charlie Prince with a passion, but can't help but notice his loyalty towards Wade. Finally, my favourite thing about the remake is that it follows the majority of the storyline from the original.